Hello, Sex and the Solo Girl listeners. Hope that you're having a great week. Today, I've got another bonus episode for you, and this one is a lot of fun. My good friend and soul sister, or my friend and soul sister, and fellow coach and intimacy expert, and fellow podcaster, Gina Catherine, recently had me on her show, The One Podcast, to talk about a very sassy topic, and that is the audacity of men. We had an absolute blast swapping stories about crazy and interesting and humorous and not so humorous situations that we have both been in with men. I hope that you will enjoy it. Let me know what you think. What story do you think is the craziest? And this is an episode for everyone. Regardless of how you identify, you are going to enjoy this. But before you continue, go over wherever you listen to podcasts and follow The One Podcast with Gina Catherine. You will absolutely love it. It involves how to grow love with yourself and others. So go over, give her a follow, and enjoy this week's bonus episode, The Audacity of Men.
Welcome to The One Podcast, the podcast for living from your most vibrant and authentic self. My name is Gina Catherine. I am a coach, a writer, and a speaker. My mission is to help you deeply connect to your body, heart, mind, and soul with curiosity, compassion, and play. While I offer these words from the perspective of a usually straight, cisgendered, able-bodied white woman, it is my heartfelt hope that this podcast holds nuggets of inspiration for anyone who feels like they could step more fully into their own life. If you want more love, more intimacy, and more play in your life, you're in the right spot. The One exists, and they are you. Hey everyone, welcome. I am here for an amazing episode with Janice Formichella, who has joined me before and is the host of Sex and the Solo Girl.
Yeah.
Welcome, Janice.
Thanks. I've been looking forward to this. I like doing episodes with you. We're just hanging out and chatting about
I know.
Evolved topics. I don't know if this is as evolved as the last
No,
one.
it is.
But
The reason I invited Janice is because I actually like the format that she has on Sex and the Solo Girl, where she has just a lot of people on and they just riff about topics, which I feel like is very genuine and heart-led. And so I reached out to her when somebody had the audacity. So this episode is going to be on the audacity of men. A person I had dated had reached out to me by text after not having talked for more than a year and had texted me acknowledging that we hadn't spoken quite some time, well over a year, and then proceeded to ask me, remember when we were together out to pizza and you tenderly said, I wish you really knew your value. And so can I ask you what you meant by that? And I read the text and I thought, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
Yeah.
Like, I am not your emotional support animal. And so it really got me to thinking, like, what does that mean, the audacity? Like, I sometimes think it's defined as boldness, but here in this episode, I want to talk about it as the absolute entitlement of men to women's love, attention, bodies, whatever. And so I asked Janice to ask some of her women friends for times when they thought, oh my God, the audacity. And so we each have a list. And so what I'm going to do is I'm not going to say which ones are mine and which ones are others. I might say which ones are mine. Like, clearly that one was mine. Like, the
okay,
audacity
I've got a bunch of my
of this
own.
guy. And I will tell you, the follow-up to the one that I started with just now is I refused to answer. And the audacity comes in when he got upset with me for not
Yep.
answering.
Yeah,
Like,
I've got a few text message type stories where, yeah, kind of just like out of nowhere popping in and then, expecting to re-engage with you. And yeah, I got a couple guys that got really pissed at me.
right? Like, it's not
Hmm.
okay. Like, maybe make the bid. I think there's some amount of audacity in that. But once I call you out on it, like, back down. And so I will say, any men who are listening to this and think that you will have the audacity to go into my email or my DMs or something and tell me not all men, just fuck right off right now.
Yeah, this is not a male hating episode. We also have the right to talk about these stories. I have so many men in my life who I absolutely love, but we have the right. Like these things have happened to us a lot of times without any provocation, and it can be very distracting um, in your life, and it can be a little scary even
Yeah. Yeah.
to just like not expect what some guys are going to do.
Yeah. Exactly. And so let's do it. Let's dig in. I'm
Yeah.
so excited to get like
Yes.
steam
And I don't think we
rolling.
even need to qualify. Let's just talk about times that we've been mistreated. I'm not even going to worry about comments about, what about the audacity of women?
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Right.
I'm going for it.
Yeah. Have your own podcast
Yeah.
episode.
Yes. Thank you.
Start your own podcast. Don't troll mine. But most of the men and women who are listening to the one podcast with Gina Catherine are not people who will slide into my or your DMs and say what was wrong with that. Like,
I've
you're
got some
welcome.
opinionated listeners, I think, because Sex and the Solo Girl is spicy and a lot of, yeah, it's not all evolved people, but I actually do get quite a bit of pushback sometimes with some of my
Yeah,
episodes. But I'm
yeah,
like, bring it. Seriously, bring it.
yeah. Yeah. And also, there might be some people who are like, oh, I get it.
I
Right.
hope
Like,
so.
I've
Yeah.
had conversations with very conscious men who said to me, well, that's not mansplaining. And they
Oh, God.
legitimately don't know. So let me just define mansplaining
Okay.
for those who are listening, because I do have a few mansplaining things on my list. And mansplaining is it's not explaining, it is not even asking if I know about a certain topic and assuming that I don't because I'm a woman.
And it's not having a conversation, it is injecting and trying to inform.
Right. You are from the mountaintops imparting your wisdom to little old me.
And I mean, it happens. I don't care what
Yeah,
anyone says. You
right.
can spot it so quickly. And it's
Yeah,
so hard to respond to. I'm always just like, all right, conversation over. I don't even care anymore.
right. And here's
That's how
what
I feel.
it took me a long time to get to the point, like I would say maybe 3 weeks ago, where where I'm like,
Okay.
I am no longer explaining in paragraphs why what you're doing is immature or pouting or no.
Yeah, good for
It
you.
is not it is no longer my job to educate men on where they're missing the point. So
Yes.
let's start. I'm like,
Okay. All
that's why
right.
I don't want the mic to pick it up too much, but let's
Okay.
start with you. I mean, we started with me, but I want to hear one of yours.
I've got a few. I will start with one of mine. And this one, okay, I will try and keep it succinct. This one is kind of funny. I used to be heavily, heavily involved with one taste slash orgasmic meditation. Absolutely loved it. I missed the practice a lot. I gained a lot from it. The more popular one taste got, practitioners started to live in houses together. This is partially a slight side note why people call it a sex cult is because people were living together. You would sleep in the same bed. A lot of people would have sex. You'd eat your meals together. There was a high level of commitment to the quote unquote rules. And like I said, the people in the house would have sex together. Fine. We had someone from one of these houses come to Melbourne, where I used to live. And it was really obvious right away that he kind of expected that the same type of activity would go on with him having sex with people. And it just wasn't that type of environment in Melbourne. We didn't live together, we practiced together, and that was pretty much it. He came in guns blazing. I didn't really like him, to be honest, from like kind of the first moment, but I did still practice with him and kind of hung out. He had an anger problem.
Mhm.
And as soon as he exhibited that to me, I created space organically. One night, even though we had not been hanging out, we had not been practicing together, I hadn't even seen him in a while. You're going to love this. Okay. One part of the terminology in these communities, if you want to hook up with someone, would be to ask, would you like to have a makeout? That's fine. This is their culture. And he
Mhm.
texted me one night, would I like to have a makeout? I was not attracted to him. I did not want to have a makeout with him. I never gave him any indication that I did. I'm sure that he full on starts texting me, please, I really need this over and over. Please. He kept on saying, please, as though when you're begging for it, can I have you over? It was really disturbing too. I said no many times. I absolutely was not going to do this. About a month later, again, no contact at all with him. He starts sending me messages wanting to get together again. Maybe this would be considered ghosting to some people, but I just didn't answer him. And about once a week, he kept on saying, I want to get together. Let's talk, blah, blah, blah. At one point, after I didn't answer him like probably 3 times, I get the most aggressive looking message from him. Why the hell aren't you answering me? We weren't even really friends. So I sent him back a very direct message about how I never intended to hook up with him. And I was pretty, like I said, direct. And I told him that he didn't have any honor, which, okay, that's pretty cold, but it was true. Just like, leave me alone. And then I blocked him. Okay. I've got the last series of text messages from him. And this was probably 6 years ago, and I've saved this message. It's so weird. Okay. So I told him he didn't have any honor and to leave me alone. And then I blocked him. I have to read this. Oh, hold on. I gotta pull it up.
That's okay. While you look for it, I'm just going to say that
Okay,
the
I got it. But yeah,
please,
say what you're gonna say.
the please and the I need this.
He did.
I
Exact words.
like if people could see if this were a video podcast, you could see that I am like gobsmacked. Like
Yeah,
I'm
I mean,
just
I could have ended the story right there. Out of nowhere, would you like to have a makeout? And also, he wanted to come to my house.
Mhm.
And I remember telling one of my friends that I was glad that he didn't know where I lived because he was not taking no for the answer. And he did say, yeah, that he really needed it. It was a little
Yeah.
scary.
And when men start to get aggressive when we say no, this is why we pick the fucking bear.
Mhm. Yeah,
Why
thank
we
you.
pick the bear over the man in the middle
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
forest.
thank you. You're so right. And this really, really happened to me.
Okay,
So,
let's hear the audacity of this text.
okay. So if that wasn't enough pleading for a makeout, okay, a few weeks later, this is from him. I want you to apologize for what you said and for all the harm that you brought into my life. Okay. Tomorrow at 6 p.m.
Meet me in the back of the middle school. We're gonna throw
I don't
down.
know what, and oh, and you're gonna love this. He convinced himself of this, and I want you to take ownership for having sabotaged a relationship that you felt like you couldn't have. I'll read that again in case you picked up my. And I want you to take ownership for having sabotaged a relationship that you felt like you couldn't have.
So he's
We were
therapizing you.
not involved. We had never kissed. We had never been on a date. I had not seen him. For him to convince himself,
That
it's
it was your
sickening.
worthiness issue. It was you not allowing yourself to have this magical moment with
I
him.
didn't respect him. Like I told him he didn't have honor. How is he convincing himself? Oh, and then he goes on. My opinion of you in this moment is very low. And whether or not you apologize, karma will most certainly haunt you. I am certain of that. Of
You
course,
should
I
have
didn't
text back.
answer.
Well,
I'm
that's
not going to engage with that type of insanity, but I know I've already said this. I just want to assure everybody I don't know where he got this. Like I've already said a few times, we weren't involved. And yeah, so I
yeah.
think that that's pretty audacious.
That is pretty audacious. And the thing that you cannot like offend the honor of a man, even when they're acting in ways that are disrespecting you,
Yeah.
none of that disrespect should touch them and their honor. The
Mhm.
fucking audacity, right?
Yeah, I agree between the text messages and the begging for sex. And that so that came into mind almost immediately.
Yeah, that is like the pinnacle of audacity.
Thank you for
That's perfect and
hmm
exactly what I was looking for.
Okay.
I'm just going to throw out a couple of general ones. One is I am not on the dating apps, but when I was on the dating apps, and a complaint of clients that I have that are on the dating apps is when men put in their bio, which is meant to be like a little description of them and their likes, they lecture women on how to act and present themselves here on the app. Ladies, no filters. Be the weight that you are. Look like your pictures.
Mm.
If you voted for blah, 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 which, okay, I'm not against that, but you can say it in a different way instead of assigning that what everybody else should be.
And even say no drama, which is something that people
Right.
put on
Well,
the
that's
apps, like
no
that
drama
in and of
equals
itself.
no feelings, right? Like I'm not
Mhm.
willing to deal with anything that puts me out of my comfort zone. So
I love
just
it.
the absolute lecturing of men to women on how we should act,
And
right?
feeling entitled to say so.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And almost as if you're doing us a favor. Thank you for schooling us.
Hmm hmm
Oh my gosh. Okay. Um, I have another one. A longtime guy friend confessed his love for me.
Okay.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. That's happened to me and it really bums me out too. It's like, first of all, what am I supposed to do with that? And also, how dare you? And then third, I'm so glad our friendship means so much to you.
Yeah. Basically, it boils down to you're so everything. And that causes a problem for me. And so now I'm going to dump my problem that I can't figure out my own lack of things. And I'm going to completely dump this on you. And married, by the way, he's married.
Oh, okay. Oh, so now he's also suggesting that she get into to a problematic situation.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to throw one more in here. And one is like, I did an entire podcast episode of this. Um, but this is a little bit similar. So I actually asked somebody out in a cold call. I texted them and I was trying to like do this boldness thing. This is shortly after my divorce. And so I just called. Like I didn't even text first. I just called this person.
Damn, girl. I don't think.
I know. So bold, right?
Yeah.
And then they texted me back and said, driving, I'll call you right back. They called me back within like less than 10 minutes. And I asked them out. And I said, I am calling to ask you out on a date. And I said it just like that.
Okay.
And he goes, well, what did you have in mind? And so I said, I threw out a couple of little examples. And I knew him to be like,
Examples.
in my mind, this like very kind person who had a lot of integrity, which was the reason why I asked him out. And so he said yes. And we went out. We ended up going to out to Thai. I took the whole podcast episode about this ridiculous date. But and so then we go through it. And since I asked him, I insisted on paying. He let me pay. Like so I paid. Again, like I was being
Sure.
super
Okay.
bold. Then we went for a walk afterwards. I told him why I had asked him out. And part of that was because I just felt like I kept saying to other people, why can't I have this like really great fire conversation? He was not in my immediate circle of friends. Um, but I knew that he was divorced, so I asked him out. And then he's like, "Oh, that's like really sweet." And we went for a walk and we sat down and he said to me 2 hours into the date,
Okay.
he said to me that he was in a committed monogamous relationship.
Oh
And so
man.
so
Oh,
that's shitty, right? That's shitty. So yes, but here comes the
I
audacity.
love this, how there's so many layers to these
Fucking
stories.
audacity. So that would have already qualified for this podcast. But the fucking audacity that I said, why are we here? And
Yeah.
he said, I have never had anyone ask me out who was as put together as you are.
Oh. So what, he just had to have the experience? That is so offensive. I'm so sorry.
Oh, fuck.
Oh God, talk about it. Oh, that is so weird. Okay, so what did he want out of this? Just to have the
Ego
ego?
stroke, I guess.
Okay.
Total ego
Oh,
stroke. So there's one more piece to this. So then
what?
I said, well, that doesn't take my feelings into account, does it? In his defense, he looked very struck by his error, right? But that didn't stop him from saying to me later as I just ended the date and I started to walk back and he called out to me, if things don't work out, like between him and his longtime committed
Oh my God. I don't even know what to say.
Right? Right? So, in other words, I am there for your ego stroke and your amusement and your entertainment.
Yeah. Wow. And
The
also
fucking
doing it in
audacity.
public. And as if you'd even want to take the bait. Like if it didn't work out, you're just waiting around. That is, whoa, man. I-
If it doesn't work out, believe me, I will know why.
yeah.
Because you're going on dates with women you find attractive to stroke your ego.
Did you by any chance answer or oh wow, I don't even know what I would do in that situation. I'm completely
I think I answered
flabbergasted.
with like a scoff, like a head shaking scoff, and I just walked out and
Wow, good for you. That is audacious.
yeah,
Woo. Okay.
come on now. All right, I'm dying to hear some of yours.
Well, okay, so I'll share one outside. This friend of mine had a couple, and then I'll go back to I had an ex-boyfriend tell me, or a boyfriend. I had a boyfriend tell me he didn't want to go to my brother's wedding with me because my brother's relationship, quote, sounded horrible and they'll probably be divorced within 6 months. We broke up a few days later, and my brother is still married and has two children. So, sharing an unwanted opinion, and this one is even better. I went to visit my boyfriend's family one Christmas, and I made breakfast for him and his brother. His brother acted hostile toward me for a few days after. And when I asked him why there was tension between us, he told me I didn't make him enough bacon when I made breakfast the other day. So a bit silly, yes.
Oh
But
my God.
yeah.
No, but that one is perfect because it is like women are put here to service you, and we also have to read minds, and we also have to do it to the ends of the world and to the maximum amount of bacon. How dare we be stingy with bacon?
Yeah. And again, like you said, to read his mind and to hold it against. I happen to know this is a very, very, very lovely woman. And like she's making you breakfast already, which maybe you just thought she OD'd to because she's a woman and
Right.
that's what we do, right? And also, I'm glad that I'm sharing these particular ones because mine are a bit extreme, I have to say. And this is kind of like day to day what we might experience as women.
Yes,
Mhm.
totally. And I'll just throw out a couple more general ones. The phrase, can't you take a joke?
Oh, yeah. Wow. Yep, 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 yep.
The audacity of trying to make it about our inability to take a joke when you're offensive or when you're an idiot
Yes.
or when
Thank
you
you for
said
that one.
something you do not,
Hmm.
like that'll. erase the need for you to learn how to apologize we all blurt stuff out, but you just don't see a lot of women saying to men, "Oh, please, can't you take a joke?"
Yeah. And
I think
especially in
that
the context, a lot of times I know for me, this used to happen to me. It doesn't anymore. I used to have a lot of people mimic me and like make fun of me because I'm very expressive.
Mhm.
And I didn't know how to probably stand up for myself. And so a lot of times, I would, say stop or maybe even laugh a little bit. And I would have that a lot. I mean, people full on making fun
Mhm.
of my mannerisms. And
Yeah.
then if I did get butt hurt, yeah, being told it was a joke, come on.
Yeah. I'm sorry that happened to you. And I'm
I
sorry that,
mean, look, if I'm easy to make fun of, I am an expressive person, but yeah, I used to deal with it all the time. And thank
yeah.
you. I learned to get a hold of it for sure.
Yeah. I also feel like you magnetize people who are at your level now, right?
Oh
Like
yes, for sure.
anybody
I
who,
haven't had it happen to me in
yeah.
a while. Mhm.
Yeah. And if you did, it probably rolls off and you know what to say. And
Well,
for any women listening to this particular piece, look up Kasia Urbaniak, who wrote Unbound and
okay.
also has a lot of training around, she calls it how to turn the spotlight. She talks about like what to do when people, because the best of us freeze up when, you're just having a regular interaction in the world and then someone says nice tits or something to you and you're just taken aback, like you don't
Hmm.
even know what to say. And she talks about like a few go-to phrases about what to do in these cases when somebody is completely offensive but you weren't prepared for it, like it's just a shock, like, and how often that happens in our everyday life.
It does. In fact, I have a story directly related to that, and it does show how different I am now in holding my ground. Me and my friend a couple years ago went to just our local bar. The bartender, who we knew really well, just from going there so often, was drunk
Hmm.
and just acting like an idiot and would not leave us alone. He kept on asking us to meet him after his shift. We were so disturbed because, again, we knew him. And at one point, he came up and he stares right at Kelsey's breasts and says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I'm so distracted by your tits." And I went lethal on on his ass. I called the manager, called him because I was friends with him as well.
Yeah,
And I was like, "You got to get down there because this guy's out of control." And
good for
my
you.
friend, the manager, did go down, fired him on the spot. And I have no regrets whatsoever. In fact,
Yeah.
I then emailed the owner, who I also know, and I said, "I just want you to know that David, the manager, did the right thing, and I was there." And
Woohoo! I
yeah,
love that. I love that because how often do we just like say like, oh, this is par for the course of walking around with beautiful breasts. Like somehow I'm inviting all of that attention and that men have some sort of get out of jail free card for making
yeah.
comments.
Mhm. And
Gross.
I don't know what he was expecting, but there was three of us there, including a man, by the way. So, and we were all just stunned and speechless and just sat there. And the male friend was like, "Okay, we got to get out of here." And then, yeah, that's when I called the manager.
Yeah, I love that. I'm so proud of you. Yay.
I have another one that's kind of about like mannerisms and things, and also a friend who just pops in and shows his true colors. I
Mm.
had a friend a couple years ago. We hung out all the time again here in the neighborhood. He had made it known that he liked me, but when I resisted or didn't reciprocate, I totally thought everything was fine. And it had been. We still hung out, it was all good. At one point, he asks if I can come to a cocktail party. "I'm having a little cocktail party Saturday evening if you would like to come. Meats and cheeses and cocktails." I said, "Thank you so much for the invite. I'm in Steamboat." I was out of town. But I'm excited for the next invite. A lot of my friends were going. He goes, "One day you might not say, quote, next time, allegedly." Okay. And I respond, "I'm out of town, question mark, explanation point." 1 week later, if that wasn't bad enough, at 6:15 p.m., "What are you wearing?" And I didn't answer. I text back the next morning and I said, "Why did you ask me what I was wearing last night?" Moses, there was a bunch of us at wing night and I was going to try and convince you to come down. And again, not involved. This is so gross. How is that in me? How is that meant to make me come out? Moses, well, if you responded last night, the conversation would have progressed. The last message, don't roll your eyes like that. I can hear it from here. Mm-hmm.
Men get so offended when we say no and yeah, eye roll or disrespect. But again, no self-responsibility.
And yeah, the audacity. I mean, this couldn't have been more just a friend. And what are you wearing? Yeah. So that one
Yeah.
stuck with me as well.
Oh, so annoying. And they very often will come by text, right? Like
Yeah. And
because like this cowardly bid.
you are so right. And that's a bunch of mine have to do with text messages, actually. And
Yeah.
so I didn't answer, not going to engage. So then when I don't answer him, he starts completely dissing me in public whenever I would see him, like full on dissing me. What, just for this tiny bit of confrontation? Like, why are you
Right.
doing this? So much
Right.
so that he would make a point of like buying everybody shots except me. It was so embarrassing and obvious. So one day, my friend Kelsey, she was smoking in the alley and said, like, you really need to apologize to Janice. Like, this isn't cool. So he did. And I said, I thank you for your apology. I don't think that's how you speak to a woman, but I appreciate you saying sorry. And then after that, the dissing just got worse to the point. I mean, I would see him and I'd be so uncomfortable. He'd turn his back to me. Again, this thing with the shots constantly. And yeah, we like hardly ever spoke again.
Good.
Yep.
Good riddance. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I have another one this one's not mine, but she shared with me after years of co-parenting post-divorce, I received a text message that asked, this is from the dad, her ex-husband, can I ask you something? And I said, sure, what's up? Thinking it was about our son. By the way, this friend is remarried.
At this point,
Mhm.
okay. Mhm.
Can I eat you?
Oh my God. When you told me this before, my blood just started
Yeah. And then
boiling.
right. And then the follow-up that really broke your heart after the blood boil was that she shared with me that she felt dirty after that.
Oh,
And it put her in a situation where she had to decide, like, do I tell my husband that the father of my child, who she was married to 10 years before, just wrote this thing? Like, is this going to be a problem for the rest of our, like, the audacity that for whatever reason he feels entitled to, like, if
oh.
you slept with a woman once, you somehow have like a place backs
And your co-parent too.
and you're
Oh,
co-parenting too.
shame on him.
Right. The audacity of this dude. I think audacity and immaturity go hand in hand.
Sure. Yeah, yep. I'm looking at my list of men here and like absolutely.
Yeah. And it's not just the arrogance, right? It's just the complete objectification of women.
Mm. Oh man, and his kid.
Yeah.
I that is just so wrong.
I have a business one. Well, and I've been in business situations where like I had a CEO who was a mentor for me like when I was in my 20s, and I really admired him, and I felt like he did a lot for me, and I was grateful. And then like about 7 or 8 years in, I had really moved up like quite high, and he said, "Oh, Gina, can you even believe it? When you first started working here, you were a hot blonde,
Oh
and
no.
and he was like gestured to me now,
Oh,
and I was like,
how weird. Also, you're hot. Like, oh man,
yeah,
a coworker. Oh my God, what are you supposed to say to that?
yeah. Well, not a coworker, the top guy,
Oh,
the CEO of a giant medical group, and what he's saying to me is like, okay, so this part I don't know, but I don't know, 26 maybe 20. I must have been 29 because I started when I was 22. But I was smart the whole time. The reason that I got mentorship, the reason that is because I was smart, because I was well spoken, he didn't mold me from a hot blonde and then diminish my beauty so that I could have business success. The equation of men's small minds not being able to get their psyche around the fact that beautiful women are smart, just the fucking audacity of men thinking that we should fit into one of these little boxes for them, and that if we came outside of the box, it somehow has to do with them and they're watering a seed or something like
Oh,
this.
that's awful. And I mean, yeah, and that does definitely go back to mansplaining for sure. And a man not being willing to meet a woman as his intellectual ego or
Yeah,
intellectual equal, excuse
yeah,
me.
yeah.
Mhm. I mean, one of my men on the list, actually, we got into like kind of an argument because we were talking about how whether or not Cleopatra like married her brother. I happen to know a lot about Cleopatra, read biographies, and he just could not. No, 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 that can't be. That can't be. Got really shitty with me. I'm like, whoa. I mean, and then of course coming back to me and saying that he had looked it up and I was right. Mm,
Okay, well, thanks.
yep. Mm-hmm. This same friend of mine, actually, and I have to say, like I said, this is one of my gay friends, and he did it as well. We used to hang out kind of a lot. We were in Toastmasters together. So, and that was on Mondays. So we both work from home. And so we would kind of naturally go to Toastmasters and then hang out after. I was looking for a side gig this year, and I ended up just feeling like Toastmasters was too much. And also, someone had given a talk that I considered fairly racist, and
Mm,
people didn't really stand up. And I resigned basically.
yeah.
And so I wasn't going to hang out with him as often. One Monday he texts asking if I can meet him after Toastmasters. I said I couldn't. I had a lot on. I happened to also be hanging out with my boyfriend. He freaked out. So, and also his messages were so like angry that I didn't even want to look them up because it
Yeah,
shook
right.
me so much.
Yeah, you're a
Um,
nervous
so
system.
first of all, he tells me I obviously don't want to be friends with him anymore. I just didn't want to hang out once. And that he had been sobbing all morning because of it. And that I wasn't, his exact words were, I wasn't making time for him anymore. And that he had envisioned me supporting him more. And then I said, I had just asked you to hang out last night. My friends had a Super Bowl party, which I had invited him to. And he
Hmm.
says, why would I want to go and watch a sport I don't like and drink beer? And then I stopped answering him. Oh, no, I did answer one more time. And I said, look, I am looking for work. I'm not going to Toastmasters anymore. And I'm in a new relationship. I do not dismiss my friends or neglect my friends when I'm in relationships. And I'm sorry, it is happening to me right now. I do not do that. I was just trying to say I'm a little less available than I was.
Yeah.
And this is the very audacious part. He was angry that me and my new boyfriend had not invited him to hang out with us. And he directly said that. He asked, why hadn't I invited him to quote unquote have shared time with me and Chris? Mm-hmm.
He's entitled to it, Janice. He's
Like, how
entitled to
creepy. Like, why would I do that? Like, also, this was a friend. It wasn't a best friend. This was someone from the
Yeah.
neighborhood. I don't know what he was thinking. So they're getting more and more aggressive, the text messages. Like, you could tell he was at home just fuming. So I
Hmm.
stopped answering.
Yeah.
You don't have to engage with somebody who's being aggressive and mean like that.
Yeah.
1 week, not even later, I get an email from him. Well, first of all, on Valentine's Day, he randomly out of the blue says, Happy Valentine's Day to you and Chris after sending all these messages. I didn't answer. 1 week later, I get an email, subject line, thank you for the, in parentheses, fake friendship. And it was a PDF, 3 pages long, just basically outlining how upset he was with me and how I had abandoned him over, the course of a few weeks. And name calling, definitely. It was very, very, very mean, very, very personal. I was shaking after I read it and also accusing me of ghosting him and flat out saying that when I had ghosted him, it had filled him with vengeance and rage.
Oof,
Hmm.
which is a threat.
Yeah, I was scared. Hmm.
So, first of all, you're supposed to be responsible for all this person's feelings. They
Yes.
they love to be the victim, and so they want to ramp this up. The difference between ghosting and a boundary is this little crybaby's idea of ghosting is really
Mm.
you holding a boundary. You were very clear that you were not to be spoken to like that. People think that things are ghosting all the time when really it's just like somebody's putting a boundary up. They said no mas. Like,
You're not, yeah. And I was not obligated to keep on going back and forth with
no.
him about whether or not I was being a good friend. I know for certain, I have no doubt in my mind that I had been a good friend to him.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Uh-huh.
I just, the part about wanting to hang out with me and my partner, though, I'm just
Right. And why, how dare you not invite me to shared time?
with my new boyfriend.
Okay. Oh,
Hmm.
oh, that's a doozer. That's a doozer.
Yeah, it was
I'm
really
glad,
upsetting.
yeah.
He
I'm
lives in
glad you
my
didn't go back.
neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so it's been kind of uncomfortable for me. I haven't seen him,
But
but it
but you
was
must worry about like, okay, am
I
I
do. And
no.
it's not fair to me because I mean the amount of time that I had given him for him to just snap over not hanging out one time.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I dodged a bullet and obviously this isn't someone I would want in my life anyways, but yeah, it was
Yeah.
mhm. Yeah, made me
Oh,
really sad. I actually
gross.
read the letter to my therapist. I was crying because it was so
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah. Well, I hope that your therapist helped you work through that because that's not only offensive but threatening.
It was, yeah.
It's
Mhm.
a real, yeah, it's a real reaction. Well, I have one around coaching. So
Okay.
I'm sure that you've had experiences with male coaches who know way more about women than women coaches know about women. But
Yeah.
I posted something and it was one of my very favorite posts that got like a ton of engagement. It was really good. And this male coach who I only know from the interwebs. I do not know him personally, nor have I ever engaged with him like in any speaking events or just an online coaching connection.
Gotcha. Hmm.
He started selling to people on my content.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've heard of that a few times. Matchmakers do it too.
So I said, I private messaged him out of respect. And I said, hey, please don't put your links or your opinions or override the engagement on my post.
Oh, he was doing it publicly on your posts?
Uh,
Oh, I was thinking he was like DMing people. Wee. All right.
no, just putting his links and explaining to people what that, first of all, that's not my style at all. To tell people, I would never say to somebody, oh, it sounds like you have anxious attachment style. Let's get on a call together. But he did that on my post, which
Oh,
then
no. Mm-mm.
touches my followers and audience with the same sort of felt sense as here's an ambulance chaser, right? But it's on my
Yeah.
content on my wall. And so I messaged him and he did not understand what I was upset about. And I had to literally say to him, this conscious male in the Bali community, in the spiritual leadership. Well, that's a whole nother podcast. um,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Was
had
he?
to say to
Yeah, I'm
him,
not even
I had
gonna.
to say to him, look, this is a business page. It's a lemonade stand. You can have your own lemonade stand. You can even get an idea about from me and take it to your lemonade stand. But you cannot bring your lemonade and put your cups and your pitcher on my table and start trying to sell to people who are in my line. And
I
he
mean,
goes,
that's just bad taste.
oh, like I had to really like give him this visual. And then I thought, why am I talking to this person? Why am I trying to explain to somebody why what they're doing is wrong?
Hmm.
He thought that he had the right because he had an opinion. He thought he was right about one of my prospective clients. that he had the right to say and do whatever he wanted to, which was to post his links and say exactly what she needed.
And as if you would do the same. I mean, that is so
Ugh,
gross.
it's pretty gross.
And as far as the conscious men go, some of the creepiest behavior that I've experienced has been from men who deem themselves to be conscious or from the
Oh, totally.
conscious community.
Totally.
I was
Totally.
dating someone in Melbourne who definitely considered himself to be that, so much so. And also, I want to say some men in that space, mwah, like seriously good guys, not all. I think if you're labeling yourself as conscious, that could be a slight red flag in and of itself. But I nothing against the consciousness community. I actually probably consider myself to be a bit of a part of it. So we
Mhm.
started dating. He became so controlling and so just kind of clobbering me, wanting to hang out all the time, not respecting my boundaries. I don't like guys to be in my space when I'm getting ready to go out. And when I didn't want that, he pushed back. At one point, he wanted to come by and like tuck me into bed one night. And I was like, like absolutely not. And when I started getting so turned off by him. And first of all, he wanted to know if I had ever been with a conscious man before, and
Mhm.
that could have been part of my problem is that I just didn't understand how they operate. And
Mhm.
then he actually tells one of my close friends that the reason why I was pushing back from this is because I have a history of abuse, and so I must be easily triggered. And I wish that I had never shared that
Oh, yeah.
with him. Mhm.
Yeah. I've had partners who will throw my sharing of trauma when they're losing an argument. They will
Yeah.
come back and say, well, this is just because you've had this.
Yep. Mhm.
And
More than once in my
I
case.
feel, and so the audacity of trying to be right in the guise of helping explain myself to me, the fucking audacity. I had
Yep.
somebody who, this is on my list and it's very relevant. Um, One of the first people I dated after my divorce was on paper, almost like you said, a conscious male on paper, really great and perfect. First argument, rage issues, anger problems.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I did not know how to react to that. I had never been in a relationship where somebody had anger issues like that. And so I just was like, okay, like in shock, right? And we're sitting across from one another and he's like going off and like shoving his phone into my face. And then he says to me, come on, Gina, dig deep. Like, like that
Okay.
I need to
Thank you,
dig.
master.
Oh, this whole thing that's going on is because I'm not digging deep enough. Thank you.
Man. Oh my God. It's so sumptuous.
Oh my God. All right, I'm going to just throw out a couple more here. When men tell you how you should dress,
Okay.
whether it's, and they put it in the guise of a compliment, you have a great figure. You should dress more sexy. You
Mhm.
should add more color, or you should dress less sexy. If you don't want these things to happen to you, you should not wear da 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 da.
Yep. And I mean, any sentence that starts with you should,
You
anything.
should. Exactly.
Oh man.
Exactly. Um, Also, here's one from somebody else. A man paid for my nail appointment, paid for a gift certificate. This is in German, Gutschein, paid for a gift certificate, and then got angry that I prefer my nails to be natural. Like it's fine if you're like, oh, okay, my bad. Like,
Okay.
but another one to get angry, like
Why
when
would
we
you?
reach, and this is a common theme, Janice, in a lot of yours too. It's the audacity is not the first thing is slightly audacious, but when they feel rejected, like this one, right? Like he knows better about what my friend's nails should look like. And when she doesn't want it like that, he gets furious that she was not appreciative of this gift. That was just not for her. It didn't fit her at all.
Uh-huh. Oh man, that's such a bummer too. I mean, to have your physical appearance commented on, And I mean, we haven't even talked about being with straight up abusive men, and that's not what we're here for. But I mean, if you think
Yeah.
these stories are entitled, you should, hear some
Yeah.
of what I
Yeah.
experienced with my
Yeah.
abuser.
Well, and here's the thing too, is that some of these are abusive in a way that like if somebody mistreats you verbally or they threaten you, like a
Yeah.
lot of yours and mine are threatening, like what's going to happen if I say no here? You feel like you're at risk.
I
I have somebody
completely.
somebody who I was like totally bonded with, just like in love with. And we helped each other a lot through things that had happened to us. Hated his birthday. He had never had a good birthday when he was a child. He was actually in boarding school. His parents like either forgot or didn't pay attention, and he was kind of left alone. So he hated birthdays, right? And he's my age. And I asked him for permission to have a little party, just he and I. And he said, yes, that's fine. And so I did like Gina things, right? Like made him like a little king crown, made him a playlist, made him a cake from scratch. That was his favorite, right? So he was more than 2 hours late
Oh man.
to this. This was during COVID. He didn't have fucking one thing to do. He was more than 2 hours late to this evening. He picked a fight throughout everything that we did. He got mad that I was a little bit quiet because he was 2.5 hours late. And I was struggling with like, am I going to ruin his birthday by being mad about him being 2.5 hours late? And
Right.
I ordered like high-end takeout and ordered his favorite and all this stuff. Like I made it like this amazing thing, right? And so then we talk about it a little bit, but I'm still really upset. And he says, and then after this, I'm going to take you upstairs and make love to you.
Ooh, really? Okay.
And I was like, the fuck
Oh
you
man, you're like,
are.
I'm so wet right now.
Right. And I'm like a person who it is an unusual thing for me to be together with a partner and for that to not have intimacy somehow involved, like to not that nakedness is almost always involved, right? And so but just the audacity that you could treat me like that you could be 2 hours late, that you could pick a fight, that you could act like a baby and pout, not take responsibility, and then to be like, after I put this dish in the dishwasher, I'm gonna take you upstairs.
Guys.
Like,
Oh.
no, like, can you forgive me for being an asshole? Like,
Yeah.
just
I had
that.
a birthday story too. For that's awful. Oh, what a bummer.
Yeah.
And we are so all the time that you put into that. Oh, I'm sorry. That's affecting me. I well,
No. Well, people have their issues. Just say that. That was a mistake. I thought I was ready for all this spoiling. I wasn't, maybe can you forgive me? Whatever, like, but not
and he
like,
probably expected that you would actually baby him and understand somehow. I don't know, but yeah, I'm sorry that happened
yeah,
for sure.
victim, 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 victim. It's
Yes.
yeah, inability to let go of the victim mentality is part of the audacity, right?
And a lot of men do that for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, women,
Um,
you know what? We do not need to qualify it with women do it too.
yeah.
I mean, a
No.
bunch of my stories. I mean, the one with the guy asking me for a makeout, and then the one saying he wants to hang out with my friend. He also told me that he was very depressed and felt like I hadn't been there for him. It's, yeah, victim,
Yeah,
victim.
we're responsible for men's feelings
He had
because
a partner, he had a
a big
therapist.
yeah, and a big part of that though is that because men often the only time that they allow themselves to feel is when they're with a woman. Not for nothing, but figure it out yourself. Again, I am not your emotional support animal. Like,
Oh my God, this is so much fun.
yeah. What else? Do you have another one? Yeah,
I
I
have
think
one more. And this, my stories are weird, man. So I had been dating someone kind of on and off. It didn't work out the first probably month. I actually stayed friends, which is very, very, very rare for me. I don't
okay.
normally do that, but in this case, I did. And we really were not getting that close again. I was as clear as can possibly be that when I am exclusive. It's after a conversation. I
Hmm.
do not just organically become exclusive
Yeah.
with you because and so I had made that known. At one point he had asked to sleep at my house after work. I'd even said no. I mean, we were not together. In his mind, because things have been going smoothly between us, he definitely thought that we were.
Hmm.
I'm in an ex-Mormon group. I had an event one time where me and another guy in the group had both shown up wearing pink. We seriously looked like we'd planned it. We just like were matching completely. And I write in the group a picture of us, and I'm like, everybody in the group is getting along so well that we're even matching with a picture of us matching. He sends me a text saying he doesn't appreciate that he has to walk into work to have people concerned about the fact that I am now. He thought by matching, like he meant like dating matching or had like matched. I don't even know. And he's full on like, I don't appreciate having to come into work and my coworkers coming up concerned about me. So, first of all, I told him directly that we weren't together. His response was that we had been having such a nice time together that he thought that we were, which made me furious. And I also said, we're matching colors, which he was like, you could just tell that in the moment he had seen the post. He was in the
Hmm.
ex-woman group too. He had seen the post and just boom, gotten
Yeah.
pissed off that I had.
Went from 0 to 100.
Mhm. And he's jealous and pissed off that I had put a selfie with someone else. One of his coworkers was also in the Facebook group, and he said that she and another guy had basically rushed up to him when he got to work, saying, like, oh my God, look at Janice. She's with someone else. I don't even know. I knew that the story was bullshit. And he did later admit to me that his coworkers had not seen it. His coworkers had not said anything. For some reason, he thought
Oh,
that having
he
that be a part of
needed
the
some
story.
sort of alliance in order, because he knew his story was his jealousy or his thing was pretty
Yeah.
far-fetched.
So instead of just saying, what the hell is this? He said that two of his coworkers had like immediately approached him when he got to work. And he absolutely agreed or admitted to me later that he had made that part of it up. I'm
Oh,
getting emotional just thinking
that
about it.
is wild.
Hmm.
If you're making stuff up in order for to prove your point or your case or your story against somebody else, that you should already know that you shouldn't be saying the thing, or you wouldn't need the ammunition from other partners. That's disgusting.
Well, again, like going back to basically his immaturity. Um, mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So we have a common theme. We have immaturity, we have arrogance, we have entitlement, especially for our bodies. Our bodies, our attention, our emotional support are owed in some way to a man, and they get pissed off when we don't give it. They call it withholding it.
Hmm.
Not withholding it. I'm just opting to not give it to you because I have agency. I'm an autonomous fucking being. But there is something in all of us in the patriarchy that tells men and us that somehow they're entitled to these precious, fucking magical pieces of ourselves
Yeah.
that they need to earn in a way that honors that, right? Like speaking about honor,
Yeah.
it's not just because you have a penis that I owe you something. A couple of your examples, Janice, said similar things, which was like in the mind or in the head of the man.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. A
When,
couple of these,
right? When
they've
their
convinced
narrative,
themselves of
yeah.
it.
And then when our logical reactions or lack of reaction goes against that story in their head, we're the problem.
Mm,
So, and it's the same with like, I have a couple more, right? So one
do
is
it.
my divorce lawyer asked me out.
Oh, okay. Oh, and he knows all this intimate stuff about you.
In his
Ew.
mind, he was a much better match for me than my ex.
Okay. Oh, how uncomfortable too. Well, you know
Oh,
what? That did happen in Sex in the City.
to who? To which one?
To
Oh, oh, right.
Charlotte actually ends
Yeah.
up marrying her divorce coach. Or
Yeah. I
you can
know.
tell
Well,
what
there's a lot.
universe I'm living in.
That's
Divorce.
another thing we could roast, right? The whole big thing. Like, okay.
I can't even. And yeah, yeah, we definitely
Yeah.
could. Okay,
The
well, that's
other,
a shame. Can I at least ask,
yeah.
was the divorce final?
Oh,
At
no.
least?
Oh,
Oh
no.
no, because
I
also
was
that's
in
unethical.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
was in a position too where I could either start all over again. And I actually put up with this for several times because I could tell I knew he would make compliments about what I was wearing. I started to dress differently so that he
Mm.
wouldn't. He would start to suggest that we were going to go out and have champagne when it was assigned by a judge. And I said, I don't drink. And he
Oh,
said, you'll make an exception.
oh, okay. That maybe makes me just as upset as anything.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's disrespect my sobriety. That's just what I
Yeah.
want.
Ugh. Okay, another thing that really, another thing, I'm going to just fire these out because we're
Mhm.
coming to the end here.
Let's do it.
When I was in my 20s, I went back with a couple of people to this guy's house it was his parents' house because we were like 22 years old. And
Mhm.
we had been at a club and we're sitting around the pool and we just had our feet in and it was like a warm summer night. And he was like gunning for me. And I just was not having it. Like he was attractive and he had a lot of money and he thought he could have anybody that he wanted to. And so then he said to me, oh, he gets up, like gives up, throws his arms up and goes, oh, pretty girls are so difficult.
Ooh, yeah.
Why? Because I'm not digging you?
But
Because maybe
also,
I have
so
a
what is he
stomach ache.
saying? He only goes out with girls he doesn't find good looking? That is so
No, he's like,
weird.
or I guess pretty girls are the only ones who say no to him.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Everybody
Well,
else would,
what is he saying he has to compare it to?
I don't
Oh
know.
man.
I don't know.
I'm
Uh,
so mad at everything right now.
I know. We're gonna have
I
to
hate everybody.
we're gonna have to
Just
do like
joking, I don't.
we're gonna have to do a Nine Inch Nails discharge dance after this.
Yeah.
Okay, here I don't know if this qualifies as the audacity, but I think men who say I'm a nice guy, that's
Okay.
the bare fucking minimum.
So I don't know the author, but one of the best self-help books that I've read is called No More Mr. Nice Guy. And it kind of deconstructs that mentality and that phrase. And a lot of times, and it's kind of like the quote unquote male equivalent of codependency when you do all these things for your partner, you feel like you're sacrificing so much and not getting anything in return is really what often
Hmm.
a man will say that
Interesting.
because he feels like he's not getting recognized. And
Yeah,
it's actually a form of manipulation. So I do consider it to be audacious
yeah,
because they're doing these things hoping to manipulate their partners to give something back.
yeah,
Often when it happens in a marriage, it would be sex, would be a
yeah.
kind of
I think in this
obvious
case
example.
it was a deflection upon anything that I brought to the table.
Hmm.
Can we talk about this thing that happened? Can you do this? When I would make a request or a bid, or when I wanted attention in a different way than was being offered, it was really like, come on, I'm a nice guy. I don't like, basically, if you're not hitting or cheating, I don't have a right to say anything to
Mhm.
you about my
I
feelings.
deserve this.
I should just keep it to myself because you're a nice guy.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, sure. I think that's a lot of
Also, how
audacity,
sexy.
right? Like, I think there's a lot of audacity in that, like,
Yeah.
meaning that, like you're shutting me down because you can't deal with something. But
Mm. Your expectations too,
yeah,
which also some of my stories had to do with, like this friend who thought he was going to hang out with me and my boyfriend and that I was going to counsel him through his depression. Oh, like your expectations are foreign to me, buddy.
your expectations are. I'm going to write that down and use it forever.
And being put in an uncomfortable situation too. That's what a few of these I resented is I did
Mhm.
not elicit
Mhm.
this. I did not provoke this. And now I have to deal with responding to this really cringy, uncomfortable thing
Yeah.
that was just imposed upon me.
Yeah. Well, I will give you my last one. I have a couple more, but I'll do my last one is about me. And it's exactly what you just talked about. where it's somehow putting me in the position that I have to do or think or say something or manage my energy around somebody else who can't keep their fucking mouth shut. And so I was actually in a screening exam with a surgeon because I was going to give a kidney. That's a whole nother story. But
Okay.
the surgeon looked me over. I had already like passed all the screening and he just wanted to explain to me how the surgery was going to go. And then he looks at me and he says, well, this recipient is going to get a sexy kidney. I am
Ooh.
alone with this doctor in the room, naked with a piece of paper over me. And this motherfucker says to me,
Oh,
well, and his voice did the thing too. Well,
you're
he
naked.
has his little like clipboard and he goes, well, this recipient is going to get a sexy kidney.
Oh no. Yeah. And if you should be able to trust someone, it would be someone who's operating on you. This is how a lot of us operate, is being suspicious of men in general. And I mean, I wish that men knew what it was like to walk around feeling this way. I don't trust anyone. You guys, the first time that I had my wisdom teeth out, I
Mm,
refused to even be put under because I was
mm.
scared that I didn't know what he was going to do to me.
Right,
That's
but
how.
but here's what the audacity is, Janice, is that men say you're so suspicious, you're so distrustful, you're so for a fucking reason.
Yeah,
Like that surgeon didn't have anything else to say about me giving a kidney, about my health,
your
about my
selflessness.
any of the skills and any of the procedures. Did I have any questions? No, he had to fucking talk about this thing that you do. And part of the reason why I think a lot of men, it's not just the objectification of women, it's that men are looking for something from women, sexual energy, sexual satisfaction, gratification, arousal, desire, completion that they don't know how to get themselves in their own lives. They are
Mhm.
disconnected from their sense of wholeness and they are desperately trying to shop around because when they're with us, they feel the feeling of wholeness. When they're without us, and so a lot of this audacity has to do with men can't fucking figure it out. And we do, and they want some of that.
And women like us, I mean, I know that I make people in general feel good when they're around me, and definitely men. And maybe if they're not used to that, like I know a few of these men probably didn't date often. I knew a couple of them really well, and yeah, feeling good having someone around and just all of a sudden, yes, having this sense of entitlement because it feels good, and so therefore, what else can I get out of it? And what's funny is, as far as like not educating and not taking care of men emotionally, I almost started going through a list right there of what men could do in order to feel fulfilled. Like my instinct was to sit
Mhm.
here and try and
Yes.
educate and enlighten so I can help out.
Yeah. Find
Hmm.
a enlightened male coach. But in lieu of that, if you want to start right now, today, ask women questions.
Hmm. Yeah, be
Ask them.
curious.
Yeah. Be curious. Get consent. Feel that.
Yeah.
You can only be, I love the audacity of men who say, like, I can't read minds. Okay. No, but you can fucking ask a question.
Hmm.
Don't be so
Sure.
afraid to ask questions. Don't be so worried about the response. Don't be afraid of trying to find your own intuition.
Yeah,
That's
that's a good point.
that's what's miss that is so often what's missing, right?
Hmm.
And they feel like the goddess energy is somebody who's in touch with their inner essence, who's in touch with their own intuition, their witchy magic. And they're like, how do I get some of that? It must have to get it from that person. I've had people who have fallen in love with me, not because of me, but because they want to be like me. They want to have what I have. And so just men. Okay,
Men of the world.
whatever. Yeah.
Listen.
Men, yeah. Like if you have recognized any piece of yourself in this podcast, try to be open to the fact that you are not entitled, okay, to women. You're not entitled to women. You're not. And women who feel so triggered by the audacity of men, like, right? Like you and I are like joking around, and some of these have hurt us deeply.
Yeah.
The ones that have really pushed on a pain point for me are the ones that I know I need to do work around, right? Like if somebody said to me, I gave you a good life, I would be like, oh, the fuck you did, like, right? Like, and then is there some piece of me that felt like I had abandoned myself in that long-term relationship? And what does that piece need now? And if I just think like, oh, brother, I roll, then it's not really an issue for me. And when somebody says to me, like, I'm not funny, I don't really give two shits if they think I'm not funny because I know I'm hilarious, right? But when I really like get triggered by the audacity, I think, what do I need to nourish myself with here?
Or maybe boundaries that you could
Yes.
do differently.
Yeah. Yeah. And what am I putting up with that I could make myself a bill of rights and say, like, I can end a conversation anytime I want to?
Yes. Mm-hmm. I will also say, if a man listening feels angered or triggered or annoyed by what we've said, that right there is your cue. That right there is the sign that maybe there's something in you that you could identify and work harder on. Maybe this means that this is your opportunity for self-reflection. Maybe this means that you're seeing some of the negative behavior inside of you, and that's why you're feeling angry and triggered. Because otherwise you'd listen and laugh and say, oh my God, I can't believe that men act like that. Oh, hello, I'm going to get in touch with these women, and not, push back in a negative, critical way.
Yeah. Be an ally. Yeah. To be an ally to someone.
Yeah.
And just like when I shared with a friend about my divorce lawyer hitting on me and the ways that he made me uncomfortable. And my friend, like, he's a public figure, and he wanted to, like, was when we lived outside of DC. He wanted to like go beat the shit out of this divorce lawyer because it incensed him. Right? It made him so mad. And so you can be an ally if you ever hear somebody saying something like the drunk bartender said to you, and like stand on the side of the woman, like physically stand on the side of the woman and say, dude, not okay, not appropriate. Like, absolutely not. Like, there are two words you can say all the time in every situation, which is absolutely not.
Yeah. And see how that makes you feel as a man.
I love that we've sort of like delved into the psyche of the audacity. But really, like, I don't know. And they're hilarious. And we're allowed to like think of them.
I mean, I'm able to look back now. At the time, a couple of these really actually shattered me completely. But I'm glad that I have a little disconnection that I can laugh about it now.
Yeah. Yeah. And they vary, right? From the audacity of like showing me how to use a bowling ball to sexual intimidation. All right, love.
Yeah, thank
awesome.
you.
This was a good one. This was such a good one.
Thanks for everyone for listening. This was fun.
And tune in next time. Janice and I are appreciative of you.
Yes. Thank you.
Bye.
Heartfelt thank you for listening. I am honored every time you choose the One Podcast. Intimacy does not require perfection. Big, juicy love requires us to get curious, to offer ourselves what we are searching for in others. From that place, relationships feel easier. If you feel like someone you know would really like this episode, send them the link right now. Let's courageously practice love together. Life is an absolute blast when you love yourself.